let's talk about the Turbosound IQ15B. Now, UPS literally just dropped this off maybe an hour ago. So this is an initial thoughts review. This is not a full product review. Normally I like to wait 6 months, if not longer, of regular use of something so I can see how it performs over time before I give a product review on something. But with this one, I got it and I was a little iffy on it. Once I got it, I ended up looking at Turbosound's website. I looked at the manual. I felt like there was a few things they're very unclear about pre-purchase. And I just kind of wanted to get a few these things out there. Like number one, I opened up the box and I saw casters in there. And I was confused. I didn't think it came with casters. I shouldn't say I was confused. I didn't think it came with casters. Because I don't believe any website I looked at said that casters were included. But when you look at covers for these, they make two covers. They make one that just slips over like this, like a standard sub cover. And then they have another cover that they sell that says cover with casters. And that's the one where if you have the casters mounted on the back, you flip it back and it fits over this way. So my thought was, when I bought it, that it didn't come with casters. So I bought the standard slipcover, just thinking I would put it on my rock and roller, stacked with all my other gear when I roll it in. So I was surprised to see casters in the box, and that's definitely not a negative. I mean, great, it comes with casters. Some manufacturers would make it a $40 aftermarket accessory. So it's great that it comes with them, but had I known it came with them, I maybe would have bought the caster cover. I was confused why they were the same price, because the websites I looked at literally says cover with casters. And, maybe it should just be worded a little more clearly, and that's kind of the issue that I'm finding with this sub in particular. And maybe I gave a really good review about the IP500 and how much I liked it. And maybe I just didn't have that many questions about it to realize that they're a little lax on the details when they're writing stuff out. So, I mean, a definite positive. I'm not going to complain about getting free casters with it, but I did order the cover, for use without casters. So, well, now I'm not going to use the casters because I'm not going to buy a second cover unless I return the first cover. Positives about this speaker that you can easily see online. It's got power con in, definitely a plus, so the power cord doesn't come out. It's got the linking. It's got the same user interface as the IP500. I'm pretty sure this interface is going to be standard across all of Turbosound's speaker lines as they upgrade and get rid of the old models. As far as sound goes, I haven't used it at a gig yet. I tested it out in the shop here, and my initial thoughts are it's standard 15-inch sub. It doesn't hit super low, but then again, it's a 15-inch sub. I wasn't expecting it to hit super low. The reason that I bought this in the first place, because all of our subs are 18s. I prefer 18s. I'm not a big 15-inch sub guy. But my reasoning for picking this one up was we do have people that rent our do-it-yourself DJ package, and some people come with a car to pick it up, and some people add on a sub. And our Vantech subs, for an 18, they've got a big box that goes with them, and they sound great. The big box definitely helps with the airflow. It makes it sound great. But we couldn't get it in the back of the vehicle. We ended up having to just wedge it into the passenger seat up front. And as we're loading it, he's like, "You guys don't have anything smaller?" And really, it would have been nice to have this at that point in time. And yeah, I got a 15-inch, perfect for you. So that was one reason for buying it. Just to have a 15-inch option in our rental inventory, so it's not all 18s and dual 18s, just something a little bit smaller. But the main catalyst for the purchase was we were actually short a subwoofer this weekend, so I needed to get something in, and I thought best time as any to get a 15-inch sub is now. You know, I could have bought another 18, but then, you know, we still wouldn't have had a smaller sub option in inventory. So it was a good time to buy it. I initially had looked at getting the IP15B. I don't think maybe it's IP15B subwoofer, where you have the ability to do the 2 satellite speakers. You know, it's got a 3-channel amp in it. But I did not go with that because in the specs on that one, it was clear to see that the output A and B XLRs were pre-processing, and the crossover processing was all in the speak-on output for the satellite speaker. So I went with this one, and you know, I plugged it in with an IP500, and I was messing with the user selectable crossover, and this is my one big gripe. If you get anything out of this video, I'll actually probably put it in the description of the video, because this is my main point on this subwoofer and what I'm disappointed about. Like, I'm gonna keep this in inventory. I'm not gonna get rid of it, but I'm not super happy with my purchase. It does not have a high pass filter on the outputs. So, you know, it's got presets for all of the IQ speakers. You know, dial in the preset right in the menu. It's got a user selectable crossover if you're using it with other speaker brands. But, you know, say we send this out with our DAS Action 12As. Those tops do not have a crossover built into them. Well, the outputs on this don't either. So it doesn't matter what you set the crossover at with this subwoofer, that crossover only affects the signal on this speaker, which makes it, in my book, unusable with any other speaker except the IQ line of speakers. So, you know, I mean, if you have, you know, IQ8s, IQ10s, 12s, 15s, whatever you decide to buy, you know, on here you just put, oh, I'm using it with the IQ12s. And then on the IQ12s, I'm sure you just dial in and say, I'm using it with the IQ15B. Great, they're designed to work together. But if you decide to use this with any other speaker, it's not going to work right. And that's literally my one big gripe. And for me, it's a really big gripe, because it's almost a deal breaker for buying a sub, that it's really only designed to use with IQ tops. Great if you love the IQ series, you know, bad if you own a set of JBLs, you own a set of DAS, you own anything, any top that does not have a crossover in it, you're going to cross the sub over, and then the tops are going to get full range anyways. And for me, one of the benefits of using a sub is you're taking those sub-based frequencies out of the tops, so that the sub's doing all the work in the low end, the highs get crisp and clear, they're not trying to push the bass, they're just going mids and highs. And, you know, you lose all that advantage with this. And, you know, I had multiple reasons for buying this. You know, I needed a sub, we definitely needed a 15-inch in our rental inventory, and on top of that, I just did my video on adding a sub to the IP500s, and I thought, man, this thing's going to be perfect. IQ15B, hiding it under my table, 2 Turbosound IP500s, people are going to be looking at me wondering where all that bass is coming from. And so I was pretty excited about it, but now I'm like, you know, how do I get these things to work good with my IP500s? Because, you know, one of the big points in adding a sub to the IP500 system is, you know, taking those really low bass frequencies out of the 8-inch, like, you know, just making the 8-inch not do all the work, having it hit more of the mids and highs. You know, so my thought on this was like, cool, I can have a user selectable crossover, I'll set it to 80 Hertz, and then make the IP500 do everything 80 and above. And it'll even out the system nicely, allow me to hit a little bit more low end, get a little bit more punch. But I can't do that. I can set this at 80, but the IP500s are still going to get full range. Any top I run into this is still going to get full range. I do not own a single full range speaker that has a built-in crossover. Every speaker I own, I mean, well, we don't own a whole lot of different ones. Or actually, I take that back. The Vantech 215As have a built-in crossover option in the menu. But I've got some Electro Voice ZLX-12Ps over there. They don't have a built-in crossover. I've got Action 12As, those don't have a built-in crossover. I've got IP500s, those don't have a built-in crossover. I was actually thinking about buying the IP300. It's got two 6.5-inch drivers and then four 2-inch drivers, and I was thinking, you know, for small little gigs where maybe I want a little more punch than the IP500 has, I could take this out and an IP300 for a small gig where I just want a little bit more bass, and it'd make a good system. But now, you know, I'm questioning that because I'm still going to be putting full range through the little 6.5-inch drivers, whereas on those, you know, I would think, you know, crossed over the system at 100 hertz and call it good. But you just, if you run full range to your tops in a sub, you know, one thinks, oh, well, you're just adding up the sub. But no, it really can make the mix muddy, because with bass frequencies, you can really get, you know, depending upon where your sub is from your other sub, you can cancel things out, you can get phase issues. There's just so many problems when you don't cross over your tops. And, you know, at the end of the day, I have it now. I'm going to keep it in inventory. I probably will still try to use it with the IP500s. I'm definitely not going to buy the IP300. You know, a year from now, will this still be in inventory? Man, that's tough to say. I can tell you one thing, I will definitely not be buying any more of these. I won't buy I won't buy anything in the IQ line now. I'm pretty bummed out about this purchase. Also, I should touch on, you know, this has speaker modeling built in, and, you know, I understand, you know, we do sound for a lot of bands, and some use, you know, modeling guitar amps nowadays. Some don't even have guitar amps, they just have pedals with models built in, so that their stage volume is nothing. You know, and I understand that, because especially if you're a cover band and, you know, say you're playing the Foo Fighters and you want your guitar to sound just like the Foo Fighters, click, bam, you sound just like the Foo Fighters. You know, if you want to sound like Guns N' Roses, bam, I sound like Guns N' Roses. You know, so if you're a cover band, I understand that modeling shift per song so you can stay more, you know, closer to the original song. But when it comes to modeling speakers, and I'll even say modeling microphones, if I buy an IQ15B, really all I want is good bass and good sound for my system. Why would I want to dial in the sound of like a JBL PRX subwoofer? If I wanted a subwoofer that sounded like a JBL PRX subwoofer, probably just go out and buy a JBL PRX subwoofer if I like the sound of that sub. If I like the sound of an Electro Voice sub, well, I'm just going to go buy the Electro Voice sub. So I'm a little confused about the modeling thing in speakers. You know, what's the point? You know, do I buy the Turbosound ring and be like, oh man, that sound company over there, boy, they sound good. Guess what? Now my speakers sound just like yours. It's dumb, it's gimmicky. I don't see any real application for having a subwoofer or tops that can model other speakers. It makes no sense in my book. All I want a set of speakers to sound good. I don't care what brand they are. just want them to sound good. So the modeling thing I don't quite get. Modeling microphones I also don't get. You know, if I like the sound of a Beta 58, buy a Beta 58. Don't buy a Line 6 that you can hit, you know, tweak it to Shure Beta 58. Because is it really sounding like that? No, it's just adjusting the EQ. Well, you can adjust EQ on your freaking mixer board. So the modeling thing I think is gimmicky. It's maybe for new people coming to market that are like, oh my god, I can buy a Turbosound and it sounds like every speaker on the market. Well, that's gimmicky, and it's definitely for people I think that just don't know the gear. Other things to touch on, there really are a lot of options in the menu. Most of them I will probably never use. I do like the fact that you can save presets. So if you use this subwoofer, with a few different setups, which I just said earlier, it's really only good with IQ stuff. But, you know, I mean, say I did use it with my IP500s, I can have an IP500 set up and I don't have to dial it in every time, it'll just load the presets. You know, if I had my IP300 that I wanted to get, I'd just load my IP300, say I brought it out with my DAS 12 inches, I could just, you know, my crossover, my EQ, however I like to have it set with each different set of speakers, you know, I just load up the preset and I'm good to go. But, as I already said in the video, there is no high pass filter on the outs. Like, I don't know how so much thought can get put into a new speaker. It looks good. So far in the shop, it sounds pretty good. You know, I haven't pushed it to its limit yet. Remember, this is just a preliminary thoughts video. This is not a review. There's just a few things I wanted to get off my chest now after the unboxing, because if I have this thing, you know, who knows if I'll even have it in inventory for 6 months, because I'm not super happy with it. If I still have it in inventory for 6 months and I wind up using it with the IP500s, if I do break down and buy an IP300 or something, you know, I will I'll do another video in 6 months, because I'll probably wind up using this quite a bit. We're getting into our slower season, which means we do smaller bar dances and stuff. So I'm sure I'll bring this out for a little bit of extra thump, and I'll share my thoughts on how I think it works. But just the sound tech in me, you've got to have a crossover, and you know there's so much processing built into this thing. You know, I mean, it's got Ultranet in. You don't even have to use XLRs if you have like an X32 or an M32. You can just Cat5 your whole system. It's got USB input, so I can hook my laptop up and adjust instead of going through the panel. They make software. I haven't tried that yet, but you know, they make software so you can just do it all on your computer. You know, just so much thought and so much technology went into this thing. Like, how do you not put a high-pass filter on the outputs? I mean, it's got to be powered subwoofer 101. And maybe it's a marketing thing. Maybe they're trying to get you to buy the IQ full-range speakers to go with it. Because really, that's the only way I see the sub being worthwhile, is if you're buying the IQ 12 tops, or, you know, whatever tops you want, and using it with these subs. It's the only way I see this sub worth buying. But if you ever have the intention of saying, you know, borrowing this sub out to your buddy, owning a rental company and renting stuff out, if you ever think about using this sub outside of the IQ ecosystem, complete waste of money. Buy another sub. So, I mean, my initial thoughts are, you know, if you're looking to buy 2 tops and a sub, if you're looking to buy 2 subs and a top, and you like the IQ stuff, you know, yeah, you're probably fine. I can't speak to the longevity of it yet. You know, this isn't a full review. But if you're buying it to add to your system, if, you know, just, I wouldn't recommend it. I almost wish I would have just bought, you know, the DAS doesn't make a 15-inch. You know, everything's 18-inch. So I had to go with a different brand. And I almost wish I would have bought, you know, maybe Pioneer makes a dual 15 that looks pretty interesting. You know, I kind of wish I would have tried that out maybe, or even the Electro Voice ETX 15-inch. One of my buddies has some of those and he really likes it. You know, I probably just would have funneled my money in a different direction. And that's actually probably one of my big gripes is, you know, I looked on the Turbosound website, I read the manual prior to purchasing, I Googled, even after buying, before, to figure out the whole high pass filter thing, out the outputs, I actually had to have an RTA with another speaker set up, and I adjusted the crossover and looked at the RTA as I was adjusting. And that's how I figured out that there's no high pass filter, because, you know, I went on Turbosound's website and they're like, oh, you got a question? Go to the knowledge base. I'm like, okay, so I go to the knowledge base, type in my question. Oh, we have no results. You know, imagine that. Computerized knowledge base has no results for what I'm looking for. There's no phone number to call. There's no email address to email. If the knowledge base doesn't have your question, then it links you to this form where you can put your serial number and everything out. I have a post-sale question. So I sat there, I filled all that out, I wrote out my question. This was before I used the RTA. Wrote out my question, I'm like, you know, do outputs A and B, does the processing, specifically the crossover, affect the outputs, or is it just a throughput? You know, I typed all that out. And I hit enter. Oh, the website had an error. My form didn't get submitted. Okay, submit. Oh, website had an error. Submit. I did that like 5 times. I'm like, okay. So there's no phone number to call, the web form doesn't work, and you've got sketchy details on your website and in your manuals. Turbosound makes... I always say Turbosound brand seems to have the best bang for the buck, the best return on investment. You're not getting top-notch equipment. You're not getting crappy equipment either. You're getting fairly, I'll just say, like middle-of-the-road equipment, but at a great price. But man, if you have a question, if you have tech support, you know, I had our Midas M32 had a fader issue when I got it, and I don't know, maybe the Midas website has a phone number, but I feel like I called somebody and got an RMA number like that, prepaid shipping label in the mail. They did 1 day shipping to Las Vegas, because I needed it for the weekend, so they did 1 day shipping to Las Vegas, guaranteed me 24-hour turnaround repairs, shipped it back to me 1 day. I mean, I've never seen customer service like that, and maybe that's just because it's the Midas brand. You know, it's all music group, but that's obviously the Midas brand. But I've never had a mixer like that. I had a problem with a Yamaha mixer, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well you can ship it, you know, in for repair. You know, you're gonna have to pay for shipping though." And I'm like, "You know how much it is to ship a 32-channel mixer? It's not cheap." I ended up popping the card out. I bought the replace. All it was an XLR jack, a $1.20 part, $1.20, and it was gonna cost me, you know, I don't know, $150 to ship the thing to the Yamaha repair center, and then, you know, wait a month and a half to get it back because they were not guaranteeing super fast turnaround like Midas did. So what I ended up doing was I just popped open the mixer, popped out the circuit board. I'm not really good at small electrical soldering, so I brought the board and the part I bought for $1.20 to a cell phone repair shop and said, "Can you desolder this, pop that one in and solder it?" Worked like a charm. Cost me $40. Granted, I voided the warranty, but, you know, at the end of the day, some warranties are good and some are bad. Like, you know, it's great that you'll fix a product, but like the hazers I've been having problems with. If I have a hazer that's brand new out of the box and it works for 3 hours and dies, it's going to cost me $40 to ship it in. Is it worth spending that $40 to ship it to get fixed, wait a month, have it shipped back to me, and then it works for another 3 hours because the product is crap? You know, a warranty is only as good as the product, and, you know, and only as good as the company that stands behind it. I was super impressed with Midas. Turbosound support, you know, the whole thing that started this little rant. Turbosound, man, you guys need to step up your website game. For one, like, there's literally, as of right now, today, there is no way to contact Turbosound. Unless there's a secret phone number somewhere, because there's definitely not any sort of, like, phone number, email address, nothing in the manual. Except there's one page, I guess, about FCC regulations. You can call and get that department. But the website really has nothing. It's just never-ending linking from page to page to page to try to get somebody, and they are obviously trying to go cheap and not really have a customer service center. You know, they want your easy questions to be answered online, like, oh, where do I plug my mixer in? Oh, well, that would be input A. Oh, sweet, easy question to be answered online. But, you know, any actual questions where somebody actually knows how to use a speaker and has an in-depth question, you're not going to find a question online. Somehow I feel like my reviews have turned into more rants about products lately. But that's my gripe about this. So far, you know, it's nice. Happy I got the casters, I guess, even though I'm not going to use them. Oh, I will say, shipping-wise, the box came in perfect condition. But I don't know where they put the casters in there. So a lot of times what you'll get when you buy a product is you'll get the brown cardboard box, but then sometimes inside you get a nice colorful retail display box. This one isn't that way. It's brown box, styrofoam inside, speakers wrapped in plastic, which I have no problems with. But they apparently don't have a good spot to put the casters, because two of the casters were still on top. The other two had like fallen inside, and I know you can't see it because it's off camera, but right where the casters were, they put two nice dents right in the grill, which normally I'd be, God dang it, you know, fired up about, but I've had so many dented grills, I just pop the grills off, put them on my carpet, take a rag and a flat hammer and pound the dent out. It's a pretty easy fix. It's just kind of a pain in the ass, you know. If they're going to ship casters with it, you know, figure out, like, take the 4 casters, wrap it in cardboard and put it on top. You know, don't have just 4 loose casters inside of a box. You know, I don't know. I feel like that's packing 101. So, audio 101, put a or maybe speaker building 101, sub building. Put a high pass filter in. Not everybody's going to buy the matching tops to your sub. Now, if you watch my other videos, I also will say I'm a big fan of having matching stuff, but for the IP500s, and you know, I needed a sub, so it's not going to match. But anyways, that's my initial thoughts. Have a good day.